we now have so many kits and whatnot that we've acquired new space, the other hangar that we're going to now, and the hangar that we just left is actually being used for a variety of things, including staging and storing. We have a lot of overseas crates that are going, and with, you've probably heard about the shipping container delays that we have.
Yes.
So the costs have become ridiculously high. But in addition to that, and maybe at least as important, maybe more importantly, is that we never know. It's nearly impossible to predict when we're going to be able to ship things. So you can have long delays for very expensive, unreliable shipping, pretty much. But so planning around that has become very, very difficult because it's just information that doesn't exist, and it kind of drives a lot of the timing that we have to plan for.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day today in Oregon.
It's nice.
Sunny. It's
kind of unusual for February. We've had some not so nice days, but the next few days are supposed to be great. I hope to get to fly tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Every good day should be a flying day. Every VFR day.
These are cool.
Yeah.
These are like super cool.
Oh.
So this company is I believe the largest restorer and maintainer of DC-3s in the world. And they do some really amazing stuff and beautiful airplanes, and they restore them to, basically a like new condition, or even better, really better than new condition. And they travel all over the world doing maintenance on those airplanes. It's their specialty. Pretty darn neat.
I saw one of those airplanes in Russia in one of the video from one of the YouTubers in Russia.
Oh yeah.
It's beautiful. It's a legend airplane.
I was going to say, there's a few airplanes in history of airplanes that have been like legendary and are just like game changers. And that's definitely one of them, for sure.
You have a very nice field here, and location of your factory is in an amazing place. I see lots of avionics companies are here, world known, and all like North American. Yeah.
Just down the road in Salem, Garmin has their West Coast, their major facility down there. R&D and a lot of development. Super cool people down there. Also in the Northwest, you have other avionics companies. Dynan Advanced Flight Systems is based in both the Seattle area as well as down here in the Portland area. And Lightspeed, that makes the headsets, is just down the road here in Lake Oswego. And super cool people there. And over across the mountains, over on the other side of the Cascades, there's a number of aviation-related companies. They're everywhere. So it's pretty dark. We also have the largest fleet of heavy lift helicopters between Columbia Helicopters and Erickson in the world, I believe. Oh, it's a lot. A whole bunch of heavy lift. So.
That's our nice vehicle for today.
So, all right, tour time. Here we go. For the few years I've been working here, there probably are some days now when I walk back and forth through here and I'm in a hurry. I don't quite take it all in, but most of the time, even now when I walk back and forth, it's still a really cool, special place. Most of this stuff, I don't have to work most of this stuff, but we'll check it out. So when we make parts, fundamentally we're an aluminum airplane company, right? So we make things out of aluminum sheet, different thicknesses, a couple different types of aluminum, but most of it that you see when you get your parts, it has that blue vinyl on it to protect both sides. When we get it here, it doesn't have that blue vinyl on it. So we get the aluminum sheet, and you can see if you look over here on these racks, we can walk over here. So we have all this aluminum. So like this is 016, right? And it's very thin. It has the aluminum applied on both sides. Here's some 125, quite a bit thicker. 020. So we have the different thicknesses, but when it comes in, it looks the same as it does when you peel it off. It's shiny. So we add the blue material here to protect it, so that when it goes through the punch presses that you'll see in a few minutes, it doesn't get scratched up. Okay. So for the 2 to 5% of airplanes that are polished airplanes, you're welcome. For the rest of you, Sorry, but that's the way it is. But we protect it. So this is where the blue magic happens.
Okay.
So this is the sandwiching machine. So what we do is we take the sheets of aluminum, and the people that do this work, they're much better at almost everything than I am. Take it and it goes down here, we're on this table, comes across these rollers, and is pulled through and has the aluminum applied, or the vinyl applied to both sides, comes out down here, and then we'll have another table down here and we stack it up and put it back on the shelf. And then it's ready to go through the punch press for the next stage of making the materials, and we'll go look at that now.
When I build my airplane, my daughters, 6 and 8, they love to peel off that blue thing. They just love to do that.
It's good to have vinyl removers. So people ask about removing the vinyl. Why is it so difficult? More often than not, it's difficult because it's been sitting on there a long time. If it hasn't been on there for too long, it's not that difficult to take off. The other thing that can make it tough is if it's cold. So if it's really cold, getting it up to room temperature or a nice warm temperature also makes it easier. Another trick, by the way, is instead of just trying to grab it and pull on it, especially if you have big pieces, is get a dowel, a stick, roll it on there and just start rolling it. I mean, it may not go much faster, but you know, your hands won't hurt nearly as much when you do it.
That's an amazing trick, by the way, with the rolling.
Oh, yeah. You got to learn the tricks, you know. So here, for example, some 063 sheet. And so what happens is that sheet is staged here to make parts. And this is a True Punch 5000 punch press. This is the newest of the 3 presses that we have running here. So this, we talk about our kits in different sort of like stages of life of the kits. The oldest ones were just aluminum, kind of cut. You have to fabricate a lot of parts and no holes in it, right? So you have to figure out where the holes go. You have to build a jig before you can build the airplane. Everything goes on the jig. And then you have to match drill holes. You have to find the holes and then drill through all the pieces to create your own holes. So those are the original kits. It's like RV3, RV4, early RV6, a lot of that. Today, RV14, RV10, RV12 is pre-punched holes. They're not drilled. It's punched. Everything is punched. You can hear that going on over here now. So it's pre-punched, matched holes, which means the holes are in all the parts because the computer puts them there for you. And on the newest airplanes, they're pre-punched, matched hole, and they're the final size. So you don't have to run a reamer or a drill bit through those holes to upsize them slightly so that, you know, the 3 or 4
That's exactly what we start to get from 2020, from August, if I'm not mistaken. August 2020, we start to get the parts.
For RV10.
RV10, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So pre-punched, meaning the holes are being punched in it over there right now, making lots of noise. Right. Matched hole, which means the holes are put in the correct place on all of the parts that go together, not just the outside skin. Final sized, meaning it's punched at that final size to a very, very close tolerance. The in-between group of the RV 7, 8, 9, although there's been a little bit of change over time, but pre-punched, matched hole. But not necessarily final sized, right? So you might have to do that. And in some cases, it's pre-punched, but not matched hole. So there's a skin. The skin has the holes in the right place, and but you have to actually drill through the substructure. So that's that sort of in-between, if you will, type. Come on over, we'll talk to John. Yeah. And this is John.
Hi John, my name is Vladimir, nice to meet you.
Yeah, very, very nice to meet you, Vladimir.
So there's a little magic mirror right here with an invisible laser.
Oh, so do not approach in order to...
Don't cross the beam. Yes. Yeah.
Well, safety first.
Absolutely. Safety first is definitely a factory thing.
I see.
You know, it's an airplane thing. For us, safety in aviation is a prime directive, if you will. And the factory is the same way.
That's great.
So which part are we making?
Around 5,000.
RB12 drip tray stiffener. I believe it goes underneath the carburetors.
Right. So the RB12 with the Rotax engine has, under the carburetors, has a drip tray, they call it. So one on each side. So these are some of the parts that are used to make that drip tray. So that's what's being made right now. So you can see we have bins and bins of scrap material. So we use, everything goes back to be, anything we don't use goes back. We sell it back at pennies on the dollar, but we sell it back to be recycled, back to manufacture.
Recycling and returning back in a ship.
And then it just comes back to us again for more parts
Amazing, that's amazing. It's good to recycle them.
We're gonna have extras.
Oh, okay, we got an extra one?
Yeah.
Here you go. You are the proud owner of an RB12 drip tray side thingy.
Amazing.
Yes. Let's see what we have here. It's always fun to... Do you know what this is called? Whoop, hang on.
This is a little part which was punched out of somewhere.
It comes from the scrap bin. It's a to-it. So now you can say that you got around to it.
Okay.
Finally.
I got it.
So we have 3 different machines running. The 5000 is the most advanced, fastest of the machines. The 200 is over here. It's not running at the moment because it's down for preventative maintenance. So it'll be running again next couple of days. And then we have the 2020 here, which is currently running parts also. The 5000 is almost twice as fast as the 2020. The 2020 is considerably faster than the 200. The machine over there is probably pushing 26 or more years old. This one's not that old, but it's older. The 5000 has been here for operational for about 3 years.
The most newest machine here.
Right,
powerful.
This machine in a single strike can punch a 2-inch hole through a 1/4-inch sheet of steel.
Wow, that's a powerful machine, must be.
It sounds like a shotgun when it does it. And we don't really do that very often, right? But it's capable of doing it. So when this was installed, we had to excavate quite a few feet down, completely reinforced, a special floor built up underneath this because of the impact over and over again, just to prevent fatigue-related fractures and what have you on the factory. So when parts are punched, then typically the next step is, more often than not, they need to be bent. And so the machines that we have over here are the bending brakes. These are CNC machines.
Wow.
And we have a variety of different dies and components that go onto these machines that are used in order to make very specific, very accurate bends. So accurate, in fact, that when the blue vinyl is on the material, we have to take the thickness of that blue vinyl into account in determining how it's programmed, because it'll bend a little bit differently, just differently enough.
Because of that thickness of the
In many cases, because that thickness has to be taken into account in terms of the result that you get.
Wow.
So, and in some cases that's more necessary than others depending on the bend, but also when you're pre-punched, matched hole, and final size, it matters a lot that those holes need to line up every single time, every time. So when we punch these parts out, we have, let's go over here. We're gonna keep walking. We do a lot of walking here.
That's good.
You can't tell, I don't seem to be losing much weight, but I'm walking. So when we make these parts, so a lot of these parts we've been making for on these machines for more than 20 years. And when we make the parts, what our folks do is along this wall, you can see lots and lots and lots of parts. Big sheets and skins, smaller parts here. But each of the parts has a number 0, if you will, part. The original first part that was made that's considered the gold standard against which everything is compared. So we'll have parts here that were made 20 years ago, 15, 10 years ago, whenever the part was first made, that we have an original of here. So when we punch those parts today, this quality standard part will be taken off and go with it, and the parts that are made are compared to the original. So we don't compare the parts that we made today to the ones that we made last month or 6 months ago. We compare them to part 0, if you will, right? So that if you order, you know, an RV 8-wing skin that you bought back in 2006 and you order one today as a replacement, it'll match. If you have an RV12 that you built and you need to replace a stabilator rear corner skin because somebody ran into it or you dinged it, you can order it, you can pop that thing off, pop the new one on, and it'll fit exactly. They're all identical and exactly the same.
Amazing.
That's part of the value of doing it that way. The other thing is that with the volume we do and the numbers that we do is that we do these, as we've discussed, in sort of larger batches. When we do that, what that does is it helps us to reach economies of scale. So the engineers that design these airplanes and refine the designs and whatnot over time are, you know, professional mechanical and aero engineers, many of whom have been doing this for many, many years and have a real pedigree, have been there, done that, right? And we're super fortunate to have the people that work here working here because the talent is amazing, but the precision that goes into making these kits, and part of what makes them so buildable is that they are that exact. And the tolerances are very, very, it's a very narrow set of specifications that things have to meet, and if they don't, they go in the recycle bin. You know, it just has to be that way.
Temporary drop point stuff.
Absolutely.
Hey, how are you doing?
Not too bad. I wasn't planning on running a hydro press, but I certainly could. You guys want to see some action?
We're going to come back.
Back out of market. So, yes, I wasn't forward, so I'm trying to straighten up 20 hours a week. Yeah, I've got a mountain of work. So these 12 O's, every single one part, that grader, everything else.
So this is actually a relatively, I'm going to take this off. This is a relatively new machine here in the factory. So this actually came from the Midwest. This made, I believe it was Ford Explorer cabin tops in its original life. But here at Van's Aircraft is a big 550-ton hydraulic press that we use to form things like ribs and bulkheads and firewalls and things like that. So this is actually new on the floor. So where we have had in the past all of that work done outside, we now do, well, we have a lot more work, to be honest with you. So we're able to do a lot of work, multiple pieces at a time, and do it right here. So you can see behind you over here, all these ribs on the table are ones that have been formed on this machine. And this is Michael, and he's actually working right now on forming some ribs.
Can I make some short video of that?
See it work.
ready to go rib.
Magic.
Magic, that's true.
So we have a combination because we've seen some of the brand new machines and the high tech. There's also some pretty low tech stuff that we do, or maybe it's like old high tech, right? So this Farnham machine here, so this machine is, the core machine itself is from like the World War II era. This is when it was made. And if you think about it, a lot of the technology that went into building aluminum airplanes and metal airplanes with rivets was really born during that time. And so some of the technology in the machines that were developed and kind of grew out of that were pretty advanced for their time. And so what this is used for is for doing bending, and think of it as the big swoopy compound curves in sheets. That's really what this is used for. There are more modern machines that will do it, but this one does it really, really well. Sometimes people have they built automation onto these old machines. So literally use the old machine and take new technology and bolt it on and make it work. But this is one of the machines that we use for doing sort of like the more gradual compound curve type bends that you see.
Nice.
We also have, we have, as we talked about a little while before we started, is the hydro presser, the big hydraulic press, 550 tons, and you can make all these parts. They start as a flat sheet of aluminum, and then all of these bends and shapes are put into the part by the hydraulic press.
This shape of the rib on top, I never seen such shape. I see usually the flat shape here.
Right, and this is an RV12 rib.
Okay, right? So just we talk about weight, so we save weight on that.
So we're saving a little bit of weight. If you do that enough times over time, it all adds up.
It's true.
Yeah. We also have. And a lot of things are being moved around right now, so apologize for the chaos here, but a little bit. But this is a CNC tomb bending machine that was added to the floor not too long ago, within the last year or so. And that allows us to make a variety of very complex clean bends and combinations of bends in tube for doing things like control sticks and exhausts and a wide variety of other that we can do very exact intricate bending in relative to the older technology that we had before we brought that on.
I will have to watch video after frame by frame.
Well, yeah, I can tell you that even like 4 years after, 4 years of walking through it's still. I still totally nerd out on this stuff. It's great. So this is just a big metal shear. So you can take great big sheets of metal and cut it. That's really what that's all about. Yeah.
And there you have a whole set of CNC machines.
CNC machines. Yep. And we have cold saws and all different kinds of technologies. Just some new, some older, some in between. Just different technology that's used to produce the parts that we're talking about. So here on the CNC machines, we do things like spar bars. We do all the spar bars in-house. We do spar riveting in-house. So when you buy the spars for the airplanes and the kits, they're all pre-assembled and pre-riveted. That's done on the stations right in this area.
So you do basically all spars here, and everything is done here.
Right. So what we do the machining of the spars in the CNC centers. What we don't do is we don't do anodizing. So it's sent out for anodizing and comes back. And that's kind of probably a good point. There are a number of things, steps that happen while we're making different parts that we don't do here because it's just not realistic. The chemicals, it takes a lot of room. So anodizing is a great example of that. Powder coating is another one. So powder coating is done outside. But we've also vertically integrated in a number of areas. So Ryan, our president of the company, is over the last several years has made a real effort to vertically integrate in key areas. And one of those areas is in machining and CNC for two reasons. Number one is it allowed us to expand our capacity with third parties and us, but it also allows us to do prototyping of things that we probably wouldn't have done before because the technology wasn't readily available. So on off hours, when we don't have downtime, then we can run and we can do RV15 parts or something like that. So, yeah.
Interesting. So. Wow. Wow.
Ed's on a bike.
Yeah.
Hey, these look familiar.
Well, unfortunately, I'm just labeling for now, and I've got one more part to wait on from John before I can actually start bending up again and put a video of that.
Does that look familiar?
So.
To the part which I have in my pocket right now.
Does, yeah.
RV12.
Yep. So this is after it was bent. So the ironic thing is,
the flat one
there you go. So remember we talked about the zero part? So here it is, the original part. This one looks a little beat up, but it's the one that's used for comparison. Making those over there, and they come over here and they get bent. So that part turns into this one.
Exactly.
Like that. There we go. Turns into that.
So you always compare to part 0 to gold Etalon part.
Yep. And this great big part here is bent on this tiny little machine. Or it might be the other way around. Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. You having fun?
Yeah, it's not too bad.
All right. So let's see. Let's walk this way. Yep. So this is the warehouse, and so we've been in the factory where things are made. This is the warehouse, which is where parts are organized and put into inventory. Parts that come from our factory, as well as from all of our third-party providers and suppliers. So for third parties, we have people that what we call bought parts. So they fully manufacture something, we buy it, it comes in here and goes into our inventory. We have the parts that we produce, and then we have the other parts, which are the ones that we typically produce, but we send out to somebody else and they do part of it. Or in the case of like welded parts, for example, we produce a lot of them here, but there are also some parts that are produced by a mom and pop shop or an individual that runs a welding business or what have you. One of the cool things about Van's Aircraft is that over the years, there's been this huge cottage industry that's been built up around the company, right? So all these really cool companies that started by somebody who said they would help out and make a few parts for Van or for the company back in the day, and turned into companies that became substantial companies building nothing but RV parts. And then some of those have even expanded to do even more. But they started, you know, in that our little world, I guess you could say. But here you can see we have a receiving area over here in a wood shop. So we get lumber, we make all of our own crates. You can see there's a lot of parts that are here that were received today that are just received and will be checked into inventory. And we receive metal parts, batteries.
Someone will say, oh, I see the landing gear mounts for my fuselage.
I see all these parts, yes. That's probably the risk of taking the tour on video, right? Is that, yeah. So we have incredible numbers of every kit on order right now. And we work every day to produce, pack, and get things together to ship. Sometimes we'll have parts in stock that can't ship right away because there's some key part in stock that we're still waiting to come in. So we have to stage things and we have to get it into inventory. We have to check all of it, right? We have to make sure that it meets spec. That takes time. And we do it as quickly as we can, and the team is really good at that. But, you know, in order to ship a kit, we have to have all the stuff to ship. Now, we do ship kits sometimes with certain parts not included. We'll back order them, we'll ship them after the fact. If it's not what we would call a critical component for that kit. You know, you're not going to build an RV10 fuselage without the first set of parts that you need to be able to build it, for example. But if there was one metal bracket that maybe is back ordered, we could probably ship you the kit and then send you the metal bracket, or a handful of those types of parts. We can do that, and we do that because we want to try to keep things moving for folks. So you can see, like here, for example, we have a whole bunch of quick build wings that are up there. So when you order a wing that's a quick build, it is almost done, right? I mean, you put basically put one lower skin on each wing, install a bunch of controls, control rods, and belt cranks and what.
And it's ready.
Do the control surfaces, and bam, your wing's done, just like magic. And you can see we have a few fuselages over here, 7, 10, and 14, and some more up there that are on the rack. This is so we're looking at just a handful here. A week ago, this place was stacked all the way out to here with quick build fuselages, and wings were all over the place. We're just getting them out the door. And we have more containers that are coming back right now. You asked about, you know, timing and shipping and delays and all that kind of stuff. So we have, I know of at least 6 containers that we're waiting on. A couple of which have actually gotten on the water and are heading this way, and some are sitting at a port waiting for a ship to come back. But as soon as they're back, they go through our QC, our quality control process. They get checked in, they get added to inventory. And once they're being checked in, we know they're good, then they go on the crating team's calendar to start getting into the queue to be able to be crated and shipped out the door. That's the way it works. But we have, welded parts, and you can see we have the crates that we make here, and we pack them very carefully. One question that we've had quite a bit recently is, it seems like there's been a lot of busted crates lately. There hasn't really been a whole lot more. There's been more people talking about it, that's for sure. During the holiday season, I think there's a lot of seasonal workers and stuff working on docks and what have you, and so I think we saw a little uptick in problems. The ones that we mostly saw were with couriers and shippers that were not what we would consider the top tier that we're shipping with. We did have one delivery truck, I believe, just drove right over a RV10 empennage kit. That doesn't.
It happens.
Not very good for the kit. But came back in, put a new kit together, get it out the door into the customer as quickly as we can. We do everything we can to prevent that kind of stuff from happening and to protect it as best as it can be protected, because every kit that we have to replace, every part that we have to replace is one part that isn't going in the next kit that we need to ship.
Yeah, and so also it's a cost, it involves cost on return and everything.
Absolutely. And another question that we've had recently is, wow, have costs really gone up that much on the truck shipping, and air shipping and sea freight? And the answer on all of those is yes. In addition, where at times freight shipments that would go in a container could go on a train to go to port, even if it's going across to the eastern seaboard, or whether it's truck to Tacoma or if it's south. Train capacity has been limited very recently in the Pacific Northwest, and so a lot of those have to go by truck, which means it's going to take more time and it costs a lot more. Okay. So these are all variables that we have to plan for, and so when we see quick build schedules, for example, and where the lead times are out a ways, they'll slide by 3 weeks or 6 weeks, and they'll move in and they'll move out. People should expect and anticipate that they're going to see that happen, that it's going to be adjusting periodically if they check on their projected lead times. That's part of the reality of the complex shipping situation, where we have to have parts, ship them somewhere, have them assembled, have them wait in port to get a ship to come back. So we estimate based on typical performance what that timing will look like, and then we have to adjust that just based on reality. That's kind of how that works.